Coming to you live from an undisclosed location. Here is your host, the one and only Flint Rasmussen.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Another episode of According to Flint. As we always say, wherever you're watching, whether it's Pluto TV, Ride Pass on Pluto, or social media, glad you could join us. A little half-hour wrap-up here of the weekend that just passed and see what's coming up in the near future. A few things to talk about today are one of our regulars, one of our friends of the show, Mr. Matt West, who this fall has shifted his gears a little bit over to the TV side of things on Pluto TV and CBS Sports Network. He's in the rotation this week. I joined him for a few minutes on his Instagram Live with he and Kate Harrison for a while earlier this week. So Matt West going to join us, share some thoughts of what stood out to him over the weekend and what he sees coming on the horizon as far as PBR teams and maybe even the PBR regular season that starts this year at the end of November. Coming off a great weekend at Fort Worth, Texas. I've always said I'm not like one of those huge, oh God, I get to go to Texas guys. But whenever I'm there, it's a good weekend. Dickies Arena, of course, a first-class facility, another first-class operation. Apparently I'm into tenses today, are the riders from the Texas Rattlers and the coaches. Another great weekend. They have won 7 games matchups in a row. They win in Missouri and win in front of their home crowd in Fort Worth, Texas. And there is a battle for the top 2 spots. And the reason being is the team championships at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas are 3 nights, but the very first night, the top 2 teams get the night off. They get a bye. I heard Sage Kimsey on TV, also handling some TV duties, say, it's a rough sport. It's very physical. It's exhausting. So anytime you can get on less bulls to try and win, that is a benefit. So this weekend, we saw what a weekend off also could do. Speaking of getting a night off, last weekend, a weekend off, a lot of those guys just stayed home and healed up. Night number 1, Friday night in Fort Worth, Texas, we rode, when I say we, that's like when you cheer for your team and they do real well. The riders, 40 rides, 22 qualified rides. And maybe you might think I'm all wet here, but that's in Texas. Texas and Oklahoma, when we go there, that is bull country. So 22 rides the first night. When the team concept was envisioned and proposed and invented by Sean Gleason, I think he had in mind all that those kind of matchups where he ride 22 rides. And the one game we rode 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 bulls. Anyway, I mentioned the battle for the 2 top spots. Team standings so far as we head into the final weekend. And look at that. Got Logan on his phone. As we look at the top team, Oklahoma Freedom come out of Texas, going into Arizona in the lead at 15-10. There's those 2. Now, I like both those teams. If I would have had to pick a month ago, I would have said Carolina and Austin. Those would have been my picks going into Vegas for the top 2 spots. The Oklahoma Freedom, who I like, they had somebody get a re-ride the other day and had to put the same guy on because all they had was 5 guys. That's all they had. I like their style. I like what Cord McCoy and Cody Lostro are doing with those guys. So keep that in mind as we go into Las Vegas. A lot of people, I think, I've had people mention it to me. The Texas Rattlers are led by their coach, Cody Lambert, and they have an assistant coach. And people have been asking me, who's this guy? There he is. Sorry. For one, I should have never done the split screen because it's very evident he's way better looking than I am. I hate that. This guy's name is Cade Swore, and he is the assistant coach with Cody Lambert for the Texas Rattlers. Cade Swore, in the last decade and a half or so has been one of the top calf ropers, tie-down ropers in professional rodeo. Made the Wrangler National Finals 7 times. Spends a lot of time with Cody Lambert because people don't know this. Cody Lambert, also a roper, and ropes calves a lot. So when you see Cade Sword, he is contributing a lot, psychologically, mentally helping those guys, organization, administrative. Cade Sword is a cowboy. I mean, that guy is a cowboy. I will say, in the world of rodeo, one of my favorite tie-down ropers, calf ropers that I've ever met. So that is who Cody Lambert's assistant is. When we looked at the team standings, Nashville it seems like everybody who matches up against Nashville, they just ride really well. Maybe it's the Justin McBride. The Nashville team making them rise to the occasion. Their lineup says yes, but their record says no. I don't want to call them Lastville, but they're Lastville right now. And I like those guys. You know what? The one thing maybe they're missing is that one stud that would help them. They got some great guys, but just that one that they can lean on every time. Speaking of the one guy, real quick, here are the MVP standings that I like. Jose Vitor Leme has moved out in the lead by a couple 100 points over Dalen Swearingen, Luciano De Castro. Those 3, no surprise. Derek Kobaba, who knew he'd be so clutch and so consistent. The shocker, Marcus Mast, still riding. There's Adriano Salgado, Mason Taylor, Ramon de Lima. That's the top 8 in the MVP standings. There's lots to cover in teams and about just life in general. One of our regulars, friend of the show, my good friend, Mr. Matt West, going to join us coming up after the break. And first, a word from our friends, Pendleton Whiskey. Welcome back to another episode of According to Flint. Ride Pass on Pluto, social media. Caught Logan not on his phone, so we came back from commercial. Welcome back. As we finish up a great weekend in Fort Worth, Texas, headed to Glendale, Arizona. Looked at the forecast, cooling down in Arizona, down into the mid-90s. That'll be awesome. It could be back to straw hat weather, but a man who has been in felt hat weather, I noticed, to class up the joint. Friend of the show, Matt West. When do you switch? In Montana, Labor Day, we're supposed to switch to felt hats because usually it might be snowing by then. Do you have a rule? Oklahoma, personally, what's your rule?
Yeah, it's Easter to Labor Day. Unless we're inside, and especially if you're wearing a sport coat, it's more business type, in my opinion, and felt hat always looks more professional. So if we're doing an indoor event, I'm in a felt hat. If we're anywhere outside, especially between Easter and Labor Day, it's all straw.
I mixed it up end of the summer. I had a straw with a sport coat on, but I've switched on those days that they toss a coin and put me on TV. I've gone with the denim. Right. Have you noticed that? I do the denim. So it's a little, it's business casual, sort of.
But I've been thinking about that, and you do switch to your normal hat. I think what you really should do is take your in-arena hat that you would typically do your entertainer job in, match that up with denim. Then I think you're onto something maybe spectacular.
That. I see what you're doing, and I like it.
It's like if Superman showed up in Clark Kent's glasses.
Oh, my God, like messed up. Like he screwed up, and they're like, Superman, like, where are you? Oh, yeah, good idea. Bingo. Good idea. Bingo. Hey, earlier this week, I did, just by complete accidents and chance, pop onto your Instagram live, you and Kate Harrison, every Monday morning, do a little Instagram live wrap up, which is fun because it's casual, it's loose. And you asked me, I kind of was joking, made light of it, but you asked me, what stood out to you at Fort Worth? I will turn that around and say, what stood out to you at Fort Worth?
Two things. Everybody's talking about Daniel Keeping and the Texas Rattlers. They win the event. Daniel is quickly becoming a superstar. I mean, it's one thing to put rides together in games, but his ride in that bonus round was unreal. And I mean, he is so locked in, and just a cool guy. I mean, he's a cool character. And that's the one thing that I wish our fans knew more about is the guys in the locker room and their actual personalities. Keeping's hilarious. I genuinely am a fan of that kid. The other thing that stood out to me was Kansas City and the Outlaws. And everybody was talking about Dalton Castle going to Austin. Nobody was talking about the rest of the roster and how they would be affected. And I honestly think most people had just checked the box and wrote them off. But what we've talked about all year long is those kids, and pun intended here with J.W. Hart being their coach, one thing they all have in common, and that is heart. You cannot teach heart. And everybody on that Kansas City team has the willingness to throw caution to the wind, do whatever it takes to just hang on for 8 seconds. Might not always be the prettiest ride, but they've got heart and they're going to hang on. Colton Hevelo showed that this weekend. Marcus Masta showed it all season long. You get guys like Bob Mitchell back in the swing of things. And I think where everybody kind of messed up was forgetting about the rest of the guys on the Outlaw squad. And that was a big thing to me this weekend.
Yeah, but good point, though. I'll tell you who didn't forget about the rest of the guys on the team was the rest of the guys on the team. All they heard all week that last day was, oh, poor Kansas City lost Dalton Castle, and they're going, what the hell? What? Hold on. Yeah. We got Bob Mitchell and Marcus Maston. This guy, because that first game Friday night, they were matched up with whoever it was. They kicked their ass. I mean, they just dominated. And so, you know, props to those guys for stepping up, going, oh, no, we're fine. We're good.
And props to J-Dub because the way he handled it, and I don't remember if it was you or Alan that asked the question about, you know, Dalton Castle, losing Dalton Castle. And he said, we didn't lose Dalton Castle. Like, nobody's going to step into his role. We went out and we signed and we drafted bull riders, and they show up to do their job, which is ride bulls. And I love the way he put it. We didn't lose Dalton Castle. Like, we still have our team. And I thought that was very interesting. And I think it set the tone for the weekend. And I think that, again, you've got to remember that when we get to Las Vegas, there's 8 teams that can win this deal. And now the teams that everybody have kind of maybe looked past are the teams that are hot moving into Vegas.
Getting the first night off in Vegas is important. And in this first segment, I emphasize that by saying we rode 22 bulls Friday night in Fort Worth in bull country. We had the weekend before off. I don't know that people understand how valuable a weekend off is. And I think we're going to see that come UTB season when we go 23 weekends in a row without a weekend off. It takes its toll. Weekend off, they were just better this weekend.
I think we're better when we have a weekend off. So, of course, the guys that are actually doing the physicality of the sport are going to be better. I mean, can you imagine what we could get into with a weekend off? You mentioned in that season, my stomach just kind of turned a little bit. It's going to be busy. But it's so important. And even just a couple extra days for a guy to just feel better, people underestimate how much that time actually can do for these guys.
Yeah. And I never, whine about the job I do, but, I even think this week, okay, got home late Sunday night, a couple days, turn around, go to Glendale Thursday. The flying is tough. You start putting it together and you do, your stomach kind of turns over. But still, come December, why wouldn't we be looking forward to going to Manchester, New Hampshire, and Albany, New York, back-to-back weekends in December? I mean, that's like a vacation, man. Can't wait.
Especially, it really is. It's going to be like being home. You don't have to leave your house. We're not going to be able to leave the hotel room. It's going to be so cold and snowy. So, I mean, it's almost like settling in at home. It's kind of the same thing.
It's the same thing.
We'll just have all our friends around. That'll be
we'll have all our good friends, yes. Kate Harrison is, I jumped a couple people on Facebook for saying that girl, that lady. I'm like, no, that's Kate Harrison. She's more of a cowboy than most people on social media.
Right.
She's been around a while and she's wonderful. We know that. I want to jump over to a guy that came in, the face of professional rodeo bull riding. A bold move for him to come in, I think. I admire him to come in and do TV, something he's never done. In the last few weeks, Sage Kimzey has really upped his game. He says some cool stuff on those telecasts. He's come a long ways.
He's getting more comfortable. And I think that comes with being around people that you trust, being around people that understand you. At the end of the day, he's one of the greatest bull riders ever in the sport. All he's got to do is talk about what he sees. And when guys get comfortable acknowledging that, like, you really get into the true insight of how intelligent bull riders have to be good at this sport. I mean, you think about every tiny little nuance of this sport and being able to manipulate every centimeter of their body. Sorry, I'm outside. But to be able to manipulate every piece of their body the way that they do, it's a science. And when you really tap into guys like Sage, man, it's so interesting to hear him explain it. And so he's been fun to have on the broadcast. I wish we could. He's like the stray dog that showed up, and I keep looking around going, hey, can we just keep him? Can we feed him, water him, keep him here? Like, we'll build a barn out back. Let's just keep him here.
He got a sling on, his arms all. Yeah. Before I let you go, you are outside getting your oil change, not your oil checked. You're getting your oil changed. What town? What town are you in right now?
Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Bartlesville. Population what?
Oh, Bartlesville is a big town. They've got a Walmart. I'm looking at like several different fast food restaurants. They've got a Chick-fil-A. So it's basically a city. Yeah, it's a city.
What Bartlesville?
That's how we judge things around.
What's the high school there?
Bartlesville Bruins.
The Bruins.
Mascot,
Get me a Bartlesville Bruins. You get me a Bartlesville Bruins shirt. Okay. Can you do that?
Deal.
Okay.
Deal.
Hey,
Deal.
Matt, great job with TV. It's fun to work with you. Sincerely, I always appreciate you coming on here, and you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, buddy.
I appreciate you, man.
You bet. Hey, Matt West. Thanks to Matt West joining us. We're going to wrap up the show. Take a quick break right after this, according to Flint.
As rural Americans, we have a unique understanding of and connection to the land. Whether we ranch, farm, log, or simply recreate, what we do today determines our tomorrow. As stewards of the land, it's our duty to ensure that our children and grandchildren can enjoy the outdoors in a similar manner that was afforded us. Join the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and ensure the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. Visit rmef.org today.
Thanks to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. As usual, they will have a presence at the PBR Teams Championship in Las Vegas coming up in a few weeks, the 4th through the 6th of November. I believe on Thursday evening, the 3rd of November, I am helping to host the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation Calcutta, where they sell off all the teams. Great deal. RMEF does a great job hosting the Calcuttas, where you buy either individual riders or teams. So see you there at the South Point in Vegas, the evening of November 3rd. See you there. I've been putting out some cool little bits on social media that has gained a little traction and people like. We've been hashtagging, tell me about your buckle, show what buckle are you wearing, and from our friends at Montana Silversmiths, every buckle has a story. Great picture posted by the PBR this weekend. Speaking of every buckle having a story, and speaking of Montana Silversmiths, Dalen Swearingen, there's Dalen. Dalen, he's adorable. Look at Dalen. His World Championship 2022 PBR World Champion buckle, a beautiful gold Montana Silversmiths buckle. See, what happens is they win it. They're presented the buckle. They give it back, and then their name is engraved and put on that buckle. Talk about one to wear. Woo! I wear that sucker. The golds are made to wear. So congratulations to Dalen and thanks to Montana Silversmiths. Keep that in mind. Every buckle has a story. Tell me yours if you have a good one. Also this weekend in Fort Worth on Sunday, we saw Cooper Wan, one of our bullfighters, exit the arena. Hard to explain. People who have not watched this a lot see things develop a little different and think injuries come in different places than they actually do. Not great pictures. I actually stole them off a video. Cooper Wan stepped in and the bull spun around. The picture on the left is the weight of that bull's back end coming down on Cooper Wan's shoulders. The picture on the right shows where he crumpled, and most people, I think, thought it was where the feet hit him that he became injured. But if you look at his right foot, it bent in underneath him and it tweaked his knee, and he crawled to the shark cage out in the middle of the arena. And when I got to him, he said, I broke my foot. My foot's broken. He was in a walking boot when he left on Sunday evening out of Fort Worth. But as we record this show, earlier, we did get word from his wife, Candace, that nothing was broken. So Cooper, toughen up. See you Friday. He's going to be pretty sore. He just did say it tweaked his knee and his foot. But really what you have is an awkward position and the weight of that bull coming down to make things just a little worse than they would have been normally. Before we go, I talked to an individual a couple weeks ago that said, not sure about the teams thing. He said, seems like they're trying awful hard to manufacture this enthusiasm for these teams. All those guys cheering and throwing their hats in the arena and hugging each other. I don't know if I like that. Are there rules for Cowboys or how they act in the arena? The first one I really remember, there's some that I remember through the process of rodeo. I remember Bobby Del Vecchio. I think, is he a founder of the PBR? Might be in the Ring of Honor. He was a New York bull rider, made it to the NFR I can't remember. I think Bobby was in the 80s and he wore flashy shirts with fringes. And when he got off his bull, he acknowledged the crowd and everybody thought he was cocky and flashy because he acknowledged the crowd. Sid Steiner comes along later and Sid was a bulldogger world champion and he got the crowd going and nobody liked him. Sid's son Rocker now making it to the NFR. So this enthusiasm, people don't like Cowboys necessarily, not all people, to do that. But I can guarantee you, this person thought it was made up enthusiasm. They're trying so hard. If you've ever played a sport or coached a sport and you are part of a team, you understand the enthusiasm, excitement that team atmosphere as a player or coach brings. And I can guarantee you, being on the back of those chutes, the enthusiasm and excitement is sincere from the players and coaches. Guarantee it. Hey, we'll see you in Arizona this weekend. Thanks for joining us this week right here on According to Flint. See you next week.